Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best versions of ourselves. And so today, wherever you're joining us, again, whether you're driving to work, sitting on your couch, making breakfast this morning, whatever you're doing, we just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Welcome. And as always, please consider clicking that little subscribe button. Please consider working with us, supporting us financially, what we're doing. We think what we're doing is so good and helpful for the world, especially right now. We think the Bible has so many beautiful, beautiful truths that it just takes time to uncover and share. And so today we're going to continue in our journey through the book of Genesis. Again, the book of origins, right? But again, that's a little bit misleading using the word origins because we understand this book, right, this compilation was never meant to be used as a literal history. Again, we understand Israel is taken captive by the Babylonians, and they are marched hundreds of miles on foot until they're there in Babylon, this huge kingdom, this large empire, this violent militaristic empire. And there, like all the other small tribes, these other communities, they're brought there and they're essentially going to assimilate. That's what all the other nations did. But again, why we view this Jewish compilation, why it's so beautiful, is because they are one of the few tribes that held on to their identity. One of the few tribes that didn't take on Babylon's gods, Babylon's narratives, Babylon's history, right? Their stories. They didn't do that. They held on to their identity. And they did it through telling their story, right? And again, their story meant like epic narratives, poems, all of it. And so the Torah, which is Genesis is part of, right? The Torah is again a written response to assimilation. And so it's essentially a compilation of poetry, mythology, prophetic musings, warnings, all of it. And it's all there to remind Israel this is who you are, this is where we've been, and this is where we hope to go someday. And so every single time you read of a different character or a different conflict, we understand those people reading it during that time period, they saw themselves in the story. They were the heroes, right? They were the villains. They were all of it. They saw themselves in the story over and over and over again. And so Torah is the complete narrative of Israel miniaturized through its tellings. And I think whenever you can understand that, when you can read the Bible in this perspective, the whole thing hums, right? It is so deep. There's some deep bass notes there, right? And when we hear it and we read it this way, I think then we can add a far deeper a far deeper application, right? And so today we're going to do Genesis 9. We're going to finish through that. And again, amazing how it's been so many weeks we've been moving through this book, but every couple verses are so full of meaning. It's rich with meaning. And so Genesis 9, we're going to finish that chapter today. So actually, no, we probably won't finish all the way through. We'll get close though. Next week we'll finish. But we're going to move through again chapter 9, and we're going to look at just a couple verses. So here we go. One more reminder, Noah. Noah is this messianic figure. Noah is the reminder that there is calm before the storm, right? He's the character, the individual who's going to lead Israel through the chaos, through the brokenness into new life. And again, we'll see these characters show up over and over again, right? Noah, Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Jacob. We'll see all these different messianic characters. Joshua, right? We'll see them show up over and over, and they are to lead Israel through chaotic times, away from captivity. Yeah, makes sense, right? Okay. Today, Genesis 9, 7 through 17. This is a pretty large one, right? So here we go. And you, be fruitful and multiply. Swarm upon the earth and multiply thereon. And God said to Noah and to his sons, so again, remember, this is, they have stepped off of the ark, right? They're now on dry land, and they're beginning to kind of like, whoa, what do we do? How do we order life again? Right? What do we do with this new landscape ahead of us? And so they're having this conversation with the divine, right? God said to Noah and to his sons, and I, behold, am setting my covenant with you and with your seed after you. And with every living creature that is with you, among the fowl, among the cattle, and among all the beasts of the earth with you, of all those who came out of the ark, and of all the living creatures of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, and never again will a flesh be cut off by flood of waters, and there will never again be a flood to destroy the earth. It goes on, God said, "This is the sign of the covenant, which I am placing between me and between you, and between every living soul that is with you, for everlasting generations. My rainbow I have placed in the cloud, for it shall be a sign of a covenant between myself and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I cause the clouds to come upon the earth, and the rainbow will appear in the cloud. And I'll remember my covenant, which is between me and between you and between every living creature among all flesh. And the water will no longer become a flood to destroy all earth and all flesh. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I will see it, to remember the everlasting covenant between God and between every living creature among all flesh, which is on the earth." And God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant that I have set up between myself and between all flesh that is on the earth." Okay, that was a mouthful today, right? But let's dig in. Let's just dig in right here. Notice this. "And you be fruitful and multiply, swarm upon the earth and multiply thereon." Yeah, we've heard this before, right? Again, this is a repeating theme. Israel, you are supposed to bring life to the world, right? Not just more babies, right? Yeah. Israel's not the rabbit that just keeps multiplying. Israel is supposed to bring order and life everywhere they go. And here's the thing for me. Anyone who is a scholar, a student of the Bible, anyone who's reading the Jesus message, if they're not bringing life and order, but chaos and brokenness and oppression, if they're doing that, they're not truly following the order that their God has given them, right? They're not following the plan that's been put out. Yeah, Israel was supposed to bring order and life everywhere they go. And this is, again, the Jesus message. Everywhere you go, you bring life and peace and justice and order. It's beautiful. And so just a reminder again, be fruitful and multiply did not mean just have a bunch of babies. It meant something so much bigger. Go and be the life for the world, right? The light for the world. Makes sense. Keep going. God said to him, "Behold, I am setting up my covenant." Now, if you're a Hebrew person and you hear covenant, that's a big deal. When someone says, "I want to make a covenant with you," this is much bigger than just sitting with some friends and saying, "Hey, I promise I'll be there next Wednesday." Way bigger than that. Covenant was actually a written agreement, right, between two parties. And so the two parties, they would come together under Jewish law, and the intention was that the two parties, they would come together, they would write this agreement, and the agreement was going to bring a sense of shalom. And so both parties would be happy with the outcome. No one would feel like they were taken advantage of. No one would feel left out. The agreement was supposed to bring for both parties a feeling of restoration, peace, connectedness. The agreement, the covenant, was there to bring the two parties together. That was the idea of a covenant. And so you didn't just make, spur of the moment, knee-jerk covenants with people. When you made a covenant, you wrote this down together. There were witnesses involved in this covenant. So when the divine says, "I'm making a covenant with you," like think about that. Any other religious structure hearing this about their gods, like no way would their gods come to earth and say, "We're making a covenant with you." What? No way. But Israel's God says, "I'm going to make a covenant with you." Both parties are going to be happy. The other gods from Babylon, Egypt, Rome, they don't care, right? But this God says, "I care. I want both of us happy, connected, at peace, shalom." What a beautiful, beautiful message. It goes on. "And I, behold, am setting up my covenant with you and with your seed after you, with every living creature that is with you, among the fowl, among the cattle, among all the beasts of the earth with you, all those who came out of the ark, of all the living creatures. Again, notice this. The promise is not just between their God and man, it's between all creation. Everything is connected. Think about that one. Their God says it starts with everything. It's a big process. When there's peace between us, there's peace in all creation. Think about that. Like when nations come together and they say, we're making a peaceful agreement to not bomb each other. Nice. But can you imagine if they said, when we make this peace agreement, other nations will follow? And the people under these nations will follow. And the way we farm will follow. And the way that we trade will follow. If all of it followed, can you imagine how beautiful these covenants would be? Those covenants would mean something, wouldn't they? If we make peace, that means everything is positively affected with us. It's not just between these two. Everything is affected in a covenant. And that is a beautiful picture of what the divine is saying to these people who are stepping into the new way of ordering life. Everything will be affected in a positive way. It's beautiful. And it continues, and I will establish my covenant with you, and never again will all flesh be cut off by the flood waters. And there will never again be a flood to destroy the earth. So again, look at that. Even moving into the earth will be affected by this. There'll never be that kind of chaos between you and the earth, between me and the earth. Everything's going to be affected. Never again will we see this. That is a deep promise. Never again will I, neighbor, take your ladder and not give it back. Right? There's so much beauty here. It's a real promise. It's a covenant. It's a written agreement, something they did not take lightly. And then notice this. My rainbow I have placed in the cloud. Now, many of us, we grew up with these songs, right? The rainbow is a promise in the sky, right? We heard the song over and over again. The beautiful rainbow. We will walk outside, a rainbow, double rainbow, treble rainbow. We'll see these rainbows, right? The light, right? All the different colors, red, white, blue, green, and we'll see them up in the sky. We'll point them out to our kids, and they're beautiful. We'll say, that's the promise that God gave us, that there'll never be another flood, right? And oftentimes when we make it literal, it gets a little weird because our children will say, well, wasn't there a flood in New Orleans? And we'll have these weird discussions. There was something so much bigger, right? So much bigger than the literalism that is often attached to it. Many of us grew up with this idea, again, that the rainbow, it's an actual rainbow. But that is not the point. There's something so much deeper when you understand this. When you look at the pictures there, this was a rainbow today, right? Brightly colored, the lights, right, refracting. This is what the word actually meant. The word was kuset. It was a bowed weapon. Think about that. I am placing my bowed weapon there, and I'm not going to reach for it again. It's almost like the divine is saying to them, their God is saying, I am putting my bow on the shelf. And no longer will I be at odds with you. No longer will there be war. The gods are no longer angry with you, right? To use tribal ancient language, right? Their God reminds them there's never going to be another point where this God will wage war with his people. And it's really beautiful because in ancient times, that's what they were used to. The ancients were constantly living in fear, right? They were so terrified that their gods were angry. When a child was murdered, when they were at war, when their crops didn't do well, all of this for them were signs that the gods were angry. The gods were disappointed. They were sending messages to their people. We are angry with you. We're at war with you, right? But here in this moment, these ancient people, the idea here is their God is saying, I am putting the bow on the shelf. I am not angry with you. There is no longer this feeling of, I need to be afraid of you. There's something so much bigger. Their God is saying, we are at one now. No more war, right? No more anger, no more fear. You don't have to live in fear anymore, right? There, God is saying there is peace, there is love between us. And you'll never experience that kind of fear again. And this is what I love about the Jesus message. Jesus comes on the scene. There is no fear in love, right? But perfect love drives out fear. Jesus shows what the divine looks like, acts like. He shows the example of what Israel looks like and acts like, right? When they're at one with their God. And it's so good, right? If Jesus is reflecting the Father, right? And Israel is supposed to be reflecting the Father, then isn't it a beautiful picture to know that the Father is not being motivated out of anger, but love? And their people now, in turn, they can be motivated not out of fear, but everything they do now can be motivated out of love, out of gratitude, right? And so we can treat each other this way. And what a great message for the ancient people, but also what a great message for us, right? We don't have to live in fear. We can live in gratitude. We can live out of place of love. We don't have to be fearful of the gods up there throwing down lightning. We know that we are at one now. What a beautiful, beautiful picture. And notice this. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and we will see it. It will remember the everlasting covenant between God and between every living creature among all flesh, which is on the earth. Wherever you go, Israel, wherever you go, the signs of the divine are there, right? Sometimes we ask this question, where is God? But maybe the better question is, where is God not? Right? God is everywhere, everywhere, even in the middle of catastrophe, brokenness, chaos, you will find the divine somewhere, doing something good, loving. The justice will follow. We see kids all around us, right? We're reminded of these times when we're comforted in our brokenness. Just the other day, I'm playing outside with my kids in the snow, and I see the divine in the play and the creativity. We see the divine when we're doing acts of goodness toward our neighbors and our friends. We see the divine when there's traumas that take place and someone comes and walks with us through the trauma. The divine is everywhere. If we'll take a moment and just look, the signs are everywhere. And yeah, they're bigger, I would argue, than refracted light in the sky or a bow on the shelf. I think they're in the examples of the people all around us on the daily. My family and I, we experienced a loss last week, and we weren't really prepared for it. We had become pregnant. My wife was pregnant, and we were surprised by that because this is going to be four for us, right? COVID baby, right? And we were nervous at first and kind of, whoa, but then we settled into it. We got excited. We started buying baby things. We made space for the little one. We told our kids about it, and we started creating names. We started creating space for the little one. We had so many beautiful ideas about my daughter being able to have a playmate just like my other two did. Oh, they were going to have bunk beds. It was going to be so good. And then last week, I got a phone call. My wife said, I don't think there's a heartbeat. And whew, that hurt, right? And the next day we found out we lost the baby. And going through the process of mourning, going through the process of knowing that all of those plans, all the space created, it was hard. It was painful. But what happened afterwards when we shared our experience with people and some of our closest friends, what happened for us was beautiful. We started getting phone calls and flowers. We had flowers show up every couple hours. There were flowers sent from people who cared about us. Friends saying, I'm so sorry. we experience the divine in the middle of our pain, in the middle of our brokenness. We were willing to share the pain, and we found that people showed up. The divine shows up even in the midst of the pain and in the brokenness. And I think this question of where is God, I think it's a small question. I think the bigger question, where isn't God? God is everywhere. You just take a moment to look, and you will see the promise everywhere you go. Whether it's refracted light in the sky or neighbors coming together and sharing flowers, you will see the divine everywhere you go. And so let's take it home, right? How do we apply this? Well, the question to me was, how do I see the positive around me? What practices can I do to remind me of the positive things around me? And so I thought about this for a while. And I also, of course, I'm going to read a lot of different experts and what they say. And here's some ideas that came out of it. Number one, focus on the good things, right? Challenging situations and obstacles are part of life. And so when you experience them, remind yourself there are still really good things. My wife and I had a few moments where we said, you know what? We didn't have this one. We lost the baby, but we have three amazing kids, healthy kids, awesome little human beings. And we get to participate in their growth every single day. And so we're grateful for the kids we have. We're grateful for the life that is spilling over in our home. Number two, practice gratitude. So when you get to that place of reminding yourself, then sit in a place of gratitude. Be happy, be grateful. Go out and do things with the people around you, right? Gratitude is going to spill over. You will find yourself whenever people are having discussions and maybe the conversation's going down a little bit, you find yourself just bringing up, yeah, but I'm so happy that I have my health. I'm so happy to be living here and experiencing this and be connected to these people. You'll find gratitude spills over and it's contagious. Gratitude. Number three, open yourself up to humor. I found over and over in my life specifically, when I am in the middle of some kind of trauma or issues or whatever, one way to kind of bounce back, watch something funny. Take a moment rather than sulking in the middle of like these dramas where there's like pain, brokenness, whatever. I get that sometimes feels good and sometimes we have to move through it. But other times it's good to laugh, right? Go to a comedy club. Go down the YouTube rabbit hole of Jerry Seinfeld, whatever it is. Find some ways to find humor in life. It's there, right? The next one, spend time with positive people. And it's so true, right? Positive people bring out positivity in each of us. And so whoever those friends are, make time to spend a little more with them, right? Because those are the people who are going to lift us up. Those are the people that will remind us of the good things all around us. And if you don't have friends that are positive, maybe it's time to start making some more friends, right? It's okay to have the Eeyores, but sometimes you need some Tiggers in your life too, right? And then lastly, practice positive self-talk. This one's hard for me because I don't always do this. But when something positive does come up, one of the writers I was reading, Chris Prentice, he says, the more positive talk you give yourself, the easier it is to speak to others. And so when you can remind yourself, I'm doing all right, right? I've moved through this. Man, life is good. This idea is a good one. Whenever you begin practicing positive talk, again, it spills over into action. So I hope those 5 concepts helped you today. I hope you can try practicing them. And so as always, I want to remind you, please go to ethos-church.org/donate. Please give that tax-deductible donation. Continue supporting what we're doing. We think this Genesis study has been so powerful. Also, if you want to get more involved in these conversations, we do this twice a month. We call these living rooms. And so each of us will join from our Zoom links in our own living rooms. And we have these conversations about compassion, mercy, traumas, all these different things. And they're all connected somehow to Bible study. And so we'll study, we'll ask questions, we'll agree, we'll disagree. It's so much fun. And if you're interested, email me at tonywerfel@gmail.com and I'll send you the link. And as always, hit that subscribe button, share these videos with friends and family, everyone you can. We'd love for more and more people to experience these. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining today as we move through a really beautiful part of the Noah narrative. Take care, and we'll see you next week.